Hi everyone, I'm back. It's been a while, but thank you for everyone tuning in, and let's get started. So, as you guys know, I'm Jeremy Frankel. You can find me at the Daily Wire and plenty of other sites. I tweet a lot, so you could find me at Frankel Jeremy, and obviously you know where my Facebook is if you're watching this, and if not, I'll tweet it out. I'll show you it. It'll be on YouTube. And hopefully you guys can catch us whenever. Either now or, whenever you want. Alright, so let's get to the main topic. And this kind of has been beaten to death a lot by a lot of people. But it doesn't really catch the eye of something very popular because we're always hit with different news cycles and really dumb things that are just like sort of like, ooh, a squirrel, that type of thing, So now with this Gold Star thing, this Gold Star mom and this whole fight, Gold Star widow, and this whole fight with the president, whatever, and it's not exactly the most relevant of things, and we had the NFL a couple of weeks ago, which is just, like, during this whole fight, we defeated ISIS. I don't know if anybody knows that, but that's not what this video is about. So let's focus on actually important things. That's what I'm going to do now. So on Friday, I guess we could start with Twitter. On Friday, the president tweeted about rising crime in the UK. And he said that it's due possibly to the spread of radical Islamic terrorism. So I'll read to you now. Just out report. United Kingdom crime rises 13% annually amid spread of radical Islamic terror. Not good. We must keep America safe. This was tweeted on Friday. So, predictably, of course, the left jumped all over him, as they do whenever Trump ever talks about Islam or terrorism or anything that actually the right likes or anything that's common sense. So they continue to call the president ignorant, divisive, and a former UK party leader by the name of Ed Miliband, I think I'm pronouncing it correctly, even went to Twitter to call Trump an absolute moron. Spreading lies about your own country, sad. Spreading lies about others, sadder. What an absolute moron. There's one problem, Mr. Miliband. Trump's right. You're the moron. According to The Telegraph, which is UK's basically one of their main news sites, London is now more dangerous than New York City. According to the crime statistics, crime across the UK, it was up 13% from last year, with much of it coming from London. Specifically, rape, robbery, and violent offenses soared dramatically. Figures like these have risen in many European countries. Sweden is now known as Europe's rape capital. Germany's steep rise in violent and political crimes, and sexual crimes too. And Paris sees a terror attack like almost once a month. A little hyperbolic, but you get my point. With that info, and there's so much that I could add to that, but let's just continue. Trump, pretty much just like anyone else, drew an easy conclusion from what could possibly be a common denominator here. Islamic immigration, specifically refugees, and they become radicalized, or were beforehand, and the numbers increase every year. So in light of this, when Trump was a candidate, I believe this was after the San Bernardino shooting in California, where Islamic terrorists, I believe they killed 15 people, if I'm not mistaken. This was at the end of 2015. He called for a ban on refugees from terror-laden countries, and now that he's president, has done his best to implement the travel moratoriums to put vetting in place and to see if it's possible that they could figure out how to see who is safe, who's going to be good, and who is dangerous. So they're meant to be temporary, but the left insists on getting in the way, and they'll do whatever it takes to implement their agenda, which is basically open borders, taking everybody, and just with an end game of really just destroying the country. Topic for another time. So they lost their election. Their coronated queen did not win. What happened? I don't know. Lots of things. So they can't get their way at the ballot box. So they judge shop. They go to the most left-wing courts in the country. And they find the most radical Obama or Bill Clinton appointed judge. And they get these judges to strike down the policies of Trump, no matter what they are. And this is not just wrong, it's really dangerous. According to the Constitution, and I'm actually going to hat tip to my friend Josh Hammer here, I actually made a mistake when I was writing this article. Congress has plenary power over broadly setting immigration policy, but Congress has devolved much of that power to the executive branch over time. And the president can curtail immigration as he sees fit. I accidentally wrote that the president has all of that power, so hat tip to my friend there. Sorry, 1 second, the computer's bugging out here. And basically, what happens after that is that a judge just takes that power to themselves, which you have Congress, you have the president, but you don't have the third judicial branch in there at all. And to add insult to injury, this is a district judge. This isn't even the Supreme Court, so they're created by Congress. They're an even lower branch. Like the three main ones, judicial, legislative, and executive, are three equal branches. They're meant to be checks on each other, hence checks and balances. So these courts are really on a much lower level than those three branches. So, adding insult to injury, they're the ones who strike it down. So they have no authority to rule that the president has to take in more refugees. That's nowhere in the law. They could decide, the president could decide how many, they could decide zero. These courts have absolutely zero, especially like in their striking it down, they cite tweets. Those are not statutes. That makes absolutely no sense to anybody who's actually paying attention. But the point is that federal immigration policy, it's about protecting national sovereignty, and the courts have no authority to take that over. And so I'm going to start citing some other pieces here. Daniel Horowitz at Conservative Review. I read his pieces a lot. I really like them. He has a great podcast called The Conservative Conscience. I highly suggest you check it out. He notes that Webster's dictionary defines a sovereign nation as free from external control. Now that the courts have crowned themselves kings over our sovereignty, with the power to rewrite both statute and the Constitution, there is no limit to the conditions foreign nationals can place on this country. Let me translate that. In other words, the courts, they're designed to be, at best, an equal branch, as I said before. And they've de facto raised themselves to the level of the highest authority, and whatever they say goes. And, of course, just as with everything else, the left does not care. And this is really extremely dangerous. Let me give you an example. The 2012 Obamacare case, let me pull up the name of the case. It was called NFIB versus Sebelius. This is about the individual mandate, whether it's a tax or a penalty. Chief Justice John Roberts, appointed by Republican George W. Bush, ironically, he basically rewrote the law to call this mandate a tax instead of a penalty. And now Obamacare is suddenly okay. Similarly, the 2015 case of Obergefell versus Hodges, which legalized gay marriage throughout the United States, it overturned decades of state sovereignty, and it made the issue into a federal one. Whether you agree with the policy or not, that's irrelevant. It could be about anything. If I agree with it or disagree with it, that's completely irrelevant to this phase, to what I'm saying here. Just by a sound of a gavel, they just made a law which never existed before. And as a consequence, you might be asking yourself, what's the big deal? But before this, bakers and flower shops weren't getting sued. Or at least they had no legal standing where it would sue them if they would. Now, anybody who doesn't want to cater a gay wedding, for example, on religious grounds, they've been sued into bankruptcy. There's a case in Oregon. There's a case in, I believe, in Colorado. There's cases throughout the country. But there's more. Roe v. Wade. Since its implementation in 1973, it's killed almost 60 million unborn children. I know that sounds like a statistic. I believe it was Stalin who said that when you kill one person, it's a crime. But when you kill 1 million people, it's a statistic. Which trivializes killing 1 million people, obviously. That sounds like a statistic, but if you think about it for more than a minute, it's really, really... Do you see where I'm going with this? Yeah. I got no words for that. But by this logic as well, the Dred Scott case would have been totally good. The case of Korematsu, which concerned the constitutionality of the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II, would have been fine. Plessy versus Ferguson, which kept segregation for 60 years until it was overturned. It was the law of the land for that 60 years. So the precedent of judges taking law into their own hands, it's obviously resulted in horrible consequences. And it's going to continue to do so if no one steps in and reforms the judiciary. Otherwise, the left is going to just continue rolling the ball. I mean, there's so many cases that, judge shopping is not going to help. Appointing new judges is not going to help. Because it's a temporary fix in 4 or 8 years, or even 16 years. Let's just say the president and vice president both have 8-year terms, and they can appoint whoever they want. What happens after that 16 years? It just goes right back the way it was. And even ones that were appointed by good conservative presidents, such as Reagan. He appointed Anthony Kennedy, who is infamously... He's been quite a swing vote to the opposite side that he was expected to be. It's irrelevant. And while Trump has made great appointments to the judiciary, I'm not knocking him for that at all. That's not my point. But celebrating that, it's as a talk show host, Steve Deace, whose work I also really like, he tweeted this a few weeks ago. It's like the Cleveland Browns celebrating a 2-game winning streak after starting the season 0-14. Of course, it's a good thing, but it's completely irrelevant because even if you do get a good ruling somewhere, the left they'll just judge shop somewhere else. We're never going to get this. They're going to continue to move the ball in their direction if we don't get a handle on this now. And who knows, in the future, they can use the courts to overturn elections even. They've done it already, in a way. Because whatever we vote for, they can just strike it right down. And if we don't get a handle on this very, very soon, it could be a disaster for the country and for everything that we stand for, no matter what we do. We can win whatever election we want. It's not going to mean a thing. So... this, in my opinion, should be the number one thing that we fight for. Honestly, I'm just a guy. I'm not saying that I shouldn't do anything, obviously. I don't know what to do. I really do hope that we can get stuff done. And I would love to hear your thoughts and would love to talk to anybody who's willing to help, who's willing to do anything. I don't have a plan in place right now, but I would love to see what we could do. And even if it's just me talking like this, I would love to even just raise awareness. And anybody who's watching, anybody who sees this, share it. Right now, I think that's the least we could do. Thanks for watching. Remember, you could always find me at Twitter, at Frankel Jeremy. You can find my work at the Daily Wire. I actually just wrote a piece about this subject today. And yeah, so have a good one, everybody. It's great to be back. Haven't done a video in a while. So have a good one, everyone. Thanks.